Hey there, How To listeners. Before we get started, I'm going to let you know about a story coming up a little later in the show. It's from our partners at Macy's. Since 2022, Macy's has partnered with Trust for Public Land, whose mission is to give everyone access to wide open space by revamping urban schoolyards, trails, and parks. From April 1st to 30th, you can support the Trust for Public Land's Community Schoolyards project by rounding up your Macy's in-store purchase or donating online. Stick around to hear from Danielle from Trust for Public Land.
This episode is brought to you by Choiceology, an original podcast from Charles Schwab. Hey there, How To listeners. Before we start the show, I want to let you know about a fascinating podcast from our partners at Charles Schwab. It's called Choiceology, and it's hosted by one of my favorite scientists, not to mention good friend, Katie Milkman. Katie speaks with Nobel laureates and authors and athletes and kind of everyone to understand the psychology and economics behind the decisions that we make. So stick around to hear more about it later in the episode. Listen to Choiceology at schwab.com/podcast or wherever you listen.
I kind of got bored just laying on the floor doing breath holds, which made it even harder when I wanted to breathe. My wife was on the swim team and she got annoyed because I'd get to the end of a breath hold and then I'd start getting up and walking around instead of laying down and relaxing. So she's like, "You're doing it wrong."
Welcome to How To. I'm Carvell Wallace. Do you remember as a kid trying to escape the heat and boredom in the middle of July? You'd find yourself at the community pool, the public beach, or even your neighbor's tiny inflatable pool. And then someone suggests like a breath holding contest. And of course, there's always that one kid that tries to cheat. And there's that one kid in goggles who's like watching everyone like a vigilante to make sure no one sneaks an extra breath. And eventually everyone bursts out of the water, gasping for air, bragging about how long they lasted. Well, for this week's listener, holding his breath is no longer just a game.
My name's John. I tried out for a special operations group in the Air Force called Pararescue. The pool is kind of their big testing ground, and I panicked in the pool and quit.
John joined the Air Force later than most. He wanted to change from his job, but more than that, he was drawn to this pararescue group.
The pararescue job, to me, seems like the most morally defensible job in the DoD. Their main mission is rescuing people. Their motto is that others may live, so I really like that, having a higher purpose, and it's to help other people.
Essentially, the pararescue group retrieves and treats wounded military members and civilians from all around the globe. They are highly trained in multiple disciplines like rock climbing, scuba diving, and parachuting. Yet, despite hours and hours of intense physical training to prepare to try out for this group, it was holding his breath that pushed John to his limit.
I would immediately be like, what am I doing? Like, there were times when, like, I'd dive under, and then it's like my body was like, nope, and I was back on the surface before. Like, it definitely felt more like I knew that I had air, it just sucked, and my body was kind of like, well, why don't we just go get some more?
Right. It was extra frustrating to John because you don't have time to recover and try again. You go from event to event, since the whole point is to be pushed to your limits and see how you do.
There's two different kind of quitters. There's guys that feel relieved, and there's guys that immediately regret it. And I immediately regretted it. Like, I got out of the pool, they have you blow a horn to show that you quit. And the horn was at the other end of the pool. So the whole way I was walking to the horn, I was like, what? And it's a little bit out of body. I was like, what? I can't believe I just did that.
Wow. And then what did it feel like afterwards? Like, how did you make that transition in the coming days that this thing that you had been thinking so long about doing was now over?
Immediately after, I was already talking about the possibility of coming back, which, you know, apparently a lot of people do. So, but it wasn't until I was like back at the dorm sitting around for a couple of weeks waiting to get my new job in the military that I was just like, oh man. So the more I learned about it, the more it was like, all right, well, it's going to be a longer process than I planned, but I didn't join the military to do a regular job. So,
but you've decided to go back and give it a shot again, and that's why you're here.
Right.
To help John on his mission to conquer his need to breathe, we've brought in a world-renowned expert.
My name is Kirk Krack. I'm the founder and president of Performance Freediving International. I'm also a performance advisor with the Liminal Collective, which is a human performance group where we're trying to democratize human performance. And since 2017, I've been working for James Cameron on the Avatar sequels, where I train the cast and crew in breathhold diving.
Besides training celebrities like Sigourney Weaver, Kate Winslet, and Tom Cruise, Kirk has coached freediving athletes to 23 world records, and his trainings are used by special operations forces in the militaries of 3 different nations.
2 months ago, I was in Okinawa training the Pararescue 31st Rescue Squadron of the Pararescue Group in a 5-day program, right? And I've worked with pararescues before, as well as other special operations groups. So I understand the training you've gone through, and just know that, you're not the first person to experience what you've gone through and then been successful in the end.
When we come back, we'll hear more of Kirk's stories and the techniques he's learned that could help John stay calm under the water. And if you're thinking, I'm not going to join a pararescue squad, what's this got to do with me? Stick around. I think you'll be surprised. We'll be back in a minute, but don't hold your breath.
This episode is brought to you by Choiceology, an original podcast from Charles Schwab. Choiceology is a show all about the psychology and economics behind our decisions. Host Katie Milkman, who is an award-winning behavioral scientist, talks to authors and athletes and Nobel laureates and all kinds of other people about why we make irrational choices and how we can make better ones. I love Choiceology because Katie Milkman is one of my favorite people on this planet. You might remember that she came on an episode of How To help our caller figure out how to get the willpower in order to lose weight. And Katie on this podcast tells us every single time something new about how our brain works and what we should do to become the people that we want to be. Each episode, Katie shares the latest research in behavioral science and dives into questions like, can we learn to make smarter decisions? One of my favorite episodes comes from Season 8, Episode 6, and it's titled The Power of Negative Thinking. Annie Duke argues that people shy away from negative thinking because it can feel really unpleasant. But if you can push through that unpleasantness, then negative thinking can motivate you to take positive, preemptive steps that make success more likely. Choiceology is out now. Listen and subscribe at schwab.com/podcast. or find it wherever you listen.
It's time to reboot your credit card with Apple Card. You work hard for your money, so you should be able to spend it on the things you actually want. With Apple Card, you can kiss fees goodbye. There aren't and never will be any annual, foreign transaction, late, or over-the-limit fees. Not even hidden ones. Apply now in the Wallet app on iPhone and start using it right away. Subject to credit approval. Late or missed payments will result in additional interest accumulating toward your balance. Variable APRs for Apple Card range from 15.49% to 26.49% based on creditworthiness. Rates as of March 1st, 2023.
The way of water has no beginning and no end.
To get a sense of what Kirk Krack does, look no further than one of last year's biggest movies, Avatar 2, The Way of Water.
The sea is around you and in you.
What we really tried to do was bring to life the real physics of being underwater. So if you've seen it, hopefully, divers in the audience look at it and say, that's exactly what it looks like underwater.
Our hearts beat in the womb of the world. Our breath burns in the shadows of the deep.
I do remember this one time where Sigourney was shooting, and she had this very intense scene, like, a lot of metabolic workload to it. And, both myself and the stunt guy who was going to be opposite her,
Everything's going to be all right.
that's who she was going to be acting to, and he was going to be down at the same depth on breath hold as well.
Big breaths.
She was 69 years old at that point, and he's this young stud of a breath hold guy.
Last breath.
Follow me.
So we get down there and she starts into her scene, and we're getting to a minute mark, and then we get to the minute 30, and you can just see she's like wrapped in her thing, and she's going, and I'm looking at him, and I can see there's a little urge to breathe that's starting. And then we get to the 2-minute breath hold, and she's still going. And then at the 2.5-minute mark, he keeps looking at me and Sigourney like, when is she going to stop? And now I can see just this intensity of his urge to breathe starting to, and Sigourney's just kind of eyes closed, still doing her thing. And I was like, holy cow, I'm supposed to be here, safetying Sigourney. And I feel like I might have to go and safety the stunt guy. And ultimately, at just a little bit before 3 minutes or something like that, she finished and got to the surface, and right away, the stunt guy came to the surface, gasping for air.
Long before Kirk was swimming with the stars, he was a self-described water rat. He spent so much time at the pool as a kid that he ran out of friends who'd go with him.
When I was in grade 10, I knew I'd have a business at an early age, and I knew it would be water-based. Had no idea it was going to be scuba diving, or let alone doing what I am today. So I became a scuba instructor, started a couple of dive shops. One was initially an inland dive shop when I was 20 years old. And then the second one I started was in the Cayman Islands.
He then moved into technical diving, which requires additional training and even mixed gases. That's what you have to do when you go really deep. It basically means taking extra tanks with non-breathable gases that help you with decompression. Kirk has gone as deep as the 550-foot range, which, for context, is over 5 times deeper than advanced recreational divers are allowed to go. It took 9 tanks and 6.5 hours of decompressing. But even with all that, it was free diving without any tanks at all, that really called to him.
Because it just felt so liberating and free to not have all this equipment hanging off of you or blowing bubbles. And, there was this silence and this sense of freedom and a real deep connection with the environment and the different animals within it. Because you're entering the water on their terms, and so they're a lot more accepting of you. And so during my time in the Cayman Islands, I eventually got the opportunity to work with a couple of world-class freedivers, and then started training different people. And I trained 2 people to national and world records, Brett LeMaster and Tanya Streeter.
The techniques that Kirk developed and that John is trying to master are not just for hobbies. In combat situations, they can mean the difference between life and death.
You're on operation at night, the enemy's above you, and now you need a survival breath hold to get you through it. You have to keep your fecal matter consolidated, if you know what I mean. And so what is that breath hold time that's going to allow you now to problem solve yourself out of a situation? Because going to the surface is even more deadly. That's where the enemy's at.
Right.
You can develop a really comfortable breath hold where you could problem solve.
Yeah, I want to pick up on some of those because, what I'm hearing in John's story is that, he's having a mental challenge. In other words, the fear that looms large is taking over his ability to problem solve in those moments. And what you train people to do is to work breath in such a way that that fear doesn't overtake too soon, too early, right? And so I'm wondering how it is that you go about like getting people to that place, because if I hold my breath, yes, I'm going to get panicked and I'm going to want to like get out of there as quickly as possible. So how do you prepare people to like address that?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, you have to realize that there's 3 things at play, right? There's the actual physiological component of what your body's going through. There's the physical component of your body, your physicality, and then there's the psychological component. So the thing I like to do when addressing those 3 different things is first understand that we need to address safety. Doing breath hold training can have a very deadly, tragic component to it. And there's ways you have to go around training safely. So first off, there's never any breath hold training that we would do in water that doesn't have a buddy who knows what they're looking at and knows how to supervise you and take care of you.
Okay, so here is probably the most important rule that we can give you. Be safe. If you are interested in training, do so under a professional or with someone who is trained to supervise you and is focused only on you. So no, the teenage lifeguard at your local pool doesn't count.
And then once we've got safety worked out, then the next level we want to touch on is going to be technique, right? There are ways we breathe up that are really designed more to relax you or to recover you. Understand that it's going to be an accumulation of a whole bunch of things you're going to put together to make huge changes. Then what magically happens is the performance comes, the performance and the comfort, right? And so all of those things can happen together.
I'm sitting here taking notes like, oh, maybe I should train for this instead of doing this podcast stuff. But I'm wondering, John, what's exciting to you about that? I mean, you mentioned that it's the most defensible job in DOD, but like a lot of people would just be like, you know what, I'm just going to train for a triathlon and keep it moving. What draws you to this particular kind of work?
It's funny, I did a couple triathlons to train to get into this because it just seems like we only have one life, and that's kind of the sentiment I have in my brain. Like, it's why not try one of the hardest things that seems like one of the coolest things and just see what I'm capable of.
Right.
That way I don't die not knowing what I'm actually capable of.
Right. I love that. So why do they include water drills? Is that because you'll be doing like aquatic rescue, or is there also an element there where it's like they want to push your limits and find out kind of what your upper limit is of this kind of like intensive work?
It's both. So for pararescue specifically, their job is to rescue anybody anywhere on the planet, and the planet's 70% water.
Gotcha.
So they do a whole lot of water work.
Gotcha.
And then the other thing is also just to test their limits. They can't shoot at you and see how you do in combat, but the next closest thing is get rid of your air supply and see whether you panic or not.
Right.
I mean, the water is the great equalizer, right? So our primal fears are the fear of falling, being eaten, and suffocation. And so when we look at breath holding and the cessation of breathing and going into apnea, that cessation of breathing, we touch on that primal fear of suffocation. And so some people have a very strong reaction and very strong breathing reflexes. I mean, although he might have rung the bell and immediately regretted it, all the things he describes of leading up to it and the things he's done, like the triathlons and all of that, to me don't indicate someone who's quick to ring the bell and glad he did. And so really it's just about how many different arrows can you put in your quiver? How many tools can you have in your tool belt to get the result you need?
I love hearing that, and I know that means a lot because, Kirk, you've trained a lot of people. John, I'm wondering if you could maybe help us by describing like what you remember literally happening to you when you're under the water. Is it that you feel the physical pressure of the weight of water? Is it that you experience a kind of like lightheadedness? Like what physically seems to be happening for you in those moments when you realize this is too much and you can't go forward?
I grew up like during the summers, I had family that lived in Florida near the beach. So, summer vacations, I would play in the water. So I thought I was pretty comfortable in the water growing up, but they make you real uncomfortable pretty quick when you get there. Like I've held my breath long enough to kind of get the tingly fingers and stuff like that. But when I was actually there at selection, that's how I know that, I had plenty of oxygen. It was mentally what was getting me, because I didn't get that kind of tingly, oh no, I'm going to pass out right now sensation. It was more of, diving in the water, and then that panicky wanting to breathe feeling came on quicker than expected. Mm-hmm. And then my brain would start trying to think too far ahead, like, oh, there's, I still have half the length of the pool to go. And then before I know it, I'm on the surface because I was thinking too far ahead instead of, just staying in the moment, focusing on what's in front of me at that point in time.
In general, how much of people's breath hold struggles has to do with like outside anxieties as opposed to physical limitations?
I think what you see is both, right? If someone's coming to me recreationally, they've already kind of pre-selected themselves as having an interest in the water, right? And if they're coming to me for free diving, they've self-selected themselves from that point of view. So they're comfortable with the water. They want to get into it. When I do breath hold survival programs with, Red Bull athletes or people in the military, they're there because they have to do it, right? So whether they're, comfortable or not comfortable in the water, this is something that they have to, do and overcome. So there's things that we would want to do ahead of time that would change and train some of your physiology to be more adaptive or more accommodating to higher levels of carbon dioxide, and also adapt your breathing so that when you are in that high metabolic state and you do have a more acidic blood pH and you do have a lot of carbon dioxide, what is that breathing you can do to get rid of the CO2 that you can in the short amount of time in which you have without going too far and hurting yourself? There's some really good dry land training we could work out ahead of time, and then just adjusting your breathing and putting all those things together then develops that psychological comfort, because now you got some really good tools in the toolkit. You're seeing really good, responses with them. That increases your psychological comfort, and away we go.
Right. That makes sense, Kirk. But I'm wondering if you could explain some of the on-land breathing exercises that you give people who are starting out in order to get them to a place where they have more comfort.
Yeah, sure. So, your lungs are balloons trapped inside a cage, right? And that cage is your rib cage and all of the muscles surrounding it. Your lungs actually have the ability to expand more than the cage allows. So, the one thing I would work on is the flexibility of that cage. So yoga is a great way to do that. And what's happening is your ribs are pulling apart, and between your ribs are your intercostal muscles. And you're opening up your potential to take a bigger breath, and that big breath is your fuel tank, right? You're getting in more air. In that air is 21% oxygen, 79% nitrogen. That means you're getting more oxygen per breath hold with less effort. And so there's a number of stretches like that you can do that open up and expand your potential.
Okay, here's another tip. If you want to get better at holding your breath, try different stretches. Stretching out your diaphragm and the muscles between your ribs can help those muscles to relax when they're being strained in a long breath hold.
The other thing I would say is how we hold our breath is another component of this, meaning how I use and close my throat off. John, if you were to take a full breath in and then to be able to hold that in, just relax your chest, hold in that full breath, but with your mouth open, your tongue at the back of your throat almost, to hold that air in. Imagine if I blow up a balloon and I'm holding the volume of air in the balloon by holding all of the walls of the balloon open, that's a lot of work. Or I can blow up the balloon and then pinch the little neck of the balloon with 2 fingers really easy and hold that whole volume in. That's what we're trying to do when we take that last breath, is take that huge breath in, be nice and flexible. We don't have huge elastic tension, but then use my throat to hold the air in. You remove a lot of work from it because it's only the small glottis muscles that are doing that work, rather than sitting there with your cheeks bursting trying to hold that air in.
Kirk, are there ways for our listeners that you have found you can use breathing techniques just in regular life as a way of dealing with anxiety, stress, discomfort, etc.?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the slow breaths we talked about are really important, right? Breathing is an autonomic function, right? We do it without having to think. And when we control breathing, that can influence heart rate, that can influence everything else in the body. So yeah, I use it for focus. We know breathing is the foundation for getting into flow state, which is your peak of human performance and what you do, right? It's when you're doing your best, be it writing something in a paper or playing pool or whatever we're doing. When you get in that peak of performance, or when you're working at your optimal, we know that breathing and ritualization is the thing that starts there. So that'd be another thing, is what is your ritual? How do you go from being John, the family guy with mortgages and kids and, all the pressures of life, to John, the medieval warrior in his suit of armor focused on battling the dragon.
I love that. And I wonder, John, if you would be willing to try holding your breath right now and seeing how long until you have an overwhelming urge to breathe.
Yeah, just do like a max breath hold.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's one thing I would say. And first off, is there anyone around? Is there anyone at your house with you right now?
Yeah, let me go grab my wife real quick so I have my safety person.
We're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, John's wife will be monitoring him for safety, and Kirk is going to walk him through a proper breath hold. Don't go anywhere.
This podcast is brought to you by Slate Studios and Macy's. Hey y'all, what's up? It's your girl, Ebony. I'm a writer, creator, and a change maker. And there's nothing like a powerful statistic to spur me into action. Did you know that 1 in 3 U.S. residents, including 28 million children, do not have a park or green space within a 10-minute walk of their home? Well, Macy's and Trust for Public Land are on a mission to change that. They're finding ways to connect everyone to the outdoors. It's Danielle's mission, too.
I'm Danielle Dank, National Schoolyard Initiative Director at Trust for Public Land. We've been transforming empty and uninviting schoolyards into thriving learning environments that double as a park after hours. When you create a schoolyard and open it to the community, it welcomes the entire community into that school. It nurtures a much stronger connection. We work directly with the students to design their schoolyard. The students are the designers. They begin to think like landscape architects, civil engineers, architects, planners, and they see themselves as agents of change. We are thrilled to partner with Macy's. Their support of our work has helped us to strengthen existing schoolyard programs and help to start new programs.
Now's the time to help communities create parks where they're needed most. This April, when you round up your purchase at Macy's or donate online, you'll help fund Trust for Public Land's Community Schoolyard Initiative. Find out how Macy's is creating brighter futures for all at macys.com/purpose.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Most of you listening right now are probably multitasking, but if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you can be doing right now, which is getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy, and you can save money by doing it right from your phone. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save nearly $700 on average, and auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Discounts for having multiple vehicles on your policy, being a homeowner, and more. So, just like your favorite podcast, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 365 days a year, so that you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at Progressive.com to join the over 29 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $698 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2021 and May 2022. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
There's no doubt about it. College is stressful for both kids and their parents, especially when it comes to figuring out how to pay for it. Good thing there's now a resource to help college-bound families breathe easy. It's called College Ave Student Loans. College Ave is here to help you take the stress out of paying for college with loans designed to fit your unique budget and goals. Through a simple 3-minute application, flexible repayment options, and helpful tools, this is your shortcut on the road to college. To learn more, visit collegeav.com/howto and enter to win their $1,000 college scholarship. There's no purchase necessary to enter or win the scholarship. See official contest rules for details at collegeav.com/howto.
We're back with John, who is about to be guided through a breath-holding exercise by our expert, Kirk Krack.
Okay, so John, hopefully you've got a nice little comfortable spot where you can lay down. We're going to do this safe, plus it's a little bit more relaxing. And, you know, when you're in the pool, you're in a horizontal position, not a vertical, right? And you're kind of weightless. And so what we'll do is we'll do a 2-minute breathe up. So you just kind of have to follow along. And in the last 30 seconds of that breathe up, we're going to do those breaths that I call purging breaths, which you're going to take a breath into the full upper chest, but not like, don't work it. Just take a nice, comfortable full breath in, and then you're going to flicker that birthday candle, and we'll count that down. So you just kind of keep following what I'm doing. And then you're going to take your last breath in, nice peak inhalation, we call it, from the diaphragm to the intercostals to the shoulder or the subclavian. And then you're going to swallow, hold that air in at the glottis. Just close your eyes and kind of chill out. And while you're doing that breath hold, I'll maybe describe and have you do some relaxation things where I'm going to take you from your toes to your fingertips to your forehead, and you just, kind of focus in on the body part I'm talking about, right? And this is all kind of the mental game. So first off, the breathing I'm going to have you do is just diaphragm and comfortably into the lower chest. So here we're going to go. We're going to take a breath in, stomach to lower chest, pause, and now exhale over 10 seconds. And as you exhale, use your tongue at the roof of your mouth to make like a shh sound is what we're going to do, all right? So it's going to be breathe in, stomach, chest, pause, and then exhale. 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 8, 1,000, 9, 1,000, 10. And then breathe in, stomach again. Breath in, pause, and exhale. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5. And let's hear that shh sound on your exhale. So now what we're going to do, this is going to be our last 30 seconds. Just relax, let our heart rate slow down a little bit. Now, breathe in, diaphragm, chest, shoulders, nice and relaxed, not too full. Swallow, and just kind of close off your throat and hold the air in.
So now John is going to hold his breath as long as he can. And during this, Kirk is going to take him through a meditative exercise. This one you can try at home too, without holding your breath. But if you do want to hold your breath, make sure you're not alone.
All I want you to do at this point is with your eyes closed, I'm going to describe a body part, and I want you to focus on that body part and relax it. So your toes, feet, and ankles, I just want you to imagine those being nice and relaxed, nice and easy. And then focus on your calves, your knees, and your thighs. So your toes to your thighs, nice and relaxed, nice and easy. Imagine you're made out of wax. The floor is a little warm and you're kind of slowly melting into it at this point. I want you to focus on your hips, lower back, and stomach. So toes to hips, nice and relaxed. And then your back, all the little vertebrae from your lower back all the way to your shoulders. So toes to shoulders, nice and relaxed. Everything relaxed. You're just kind of slowly melting into the floor. And now your shoulders, your biceps, your elbows, your forearms, and your fingers. From your toes to your fingers, just nice and relaxed. Just melting into the floor. And now let's work on the neck. So the neck, the jaw, the tongue, the cheeks, the eyes, the eyebrows, the forehead. From the toes to the fingertips to the forehead. Just nice and relaxed. Again, you're kind of made of wax. You're just slowly kind of flattening out and melting into the floor right now. So from toes to thighs, nice and relaxed. And you're gonna feel urges to breathe. And there we go, right? Okay. And then you catch your breath. Take 6 good breaths. In fact, take them at the top half of the lungs. We call that recovery breathing, right? The 6 most important breaths you're ever going to take, John, are at the end of your breath hold when you're recovering.
The urge to get up and move on might be strong right now, but it's important, Kirk says, to take these deep recovery breaths so you don't black out after stressing your body with the long breath hold.
So, 1 breath hold, your first breath hold. I was a little late in starting, but that was around 2:15, maybe 2:20 from the time you really took the breath hold to finishing.
There you go.
That's actually one of the longer ones I've ever done.
Okay, good.
Look at that.
I was thinking it was a lot shorter, actually. The
Okay.
last time I did a max breath hold was a couple months ago, and it was like a minute 15 or something.
Look at that.
Well, so here's the really cool part, right? So that was a 2-minute breathe up, maybe a little bit longer. And then I was a 220 breath hold on your first breath hold. So that's great. But understand that the real breath hold will come on your maybe third or fourth breath hold. Like right now, that breath hold, you created acidity in the blood and the body just woke up and said, whoa, I got to change and adapt for what he's doing, right? So your next breath hold would be better. Then the next breath hold after that, and so on and so on. So train the way you fight the way you train. Push yourself to the urges of uncomfortable breath holds so you get used to it. Pain purifies, embrace the pain. Listen, mostly you're motivated, you want to do it, you're willing to do what it takes to get done. So I have no doubt that, you'll be successful in the long run.
That's awesome. John, can you talk a little bit about your reaction to that experience?
Yeah, I noticed when I started getting kind of the guppying, spasms for breath, it actually did come from the diaphragm. My chest was moving instead of my throat, which is what normally happens when I'm underwater trying it.
And that's what we want. We want the diaphragm to be where we feel the urge to breathe rather than a tightening in the chest or necessarily the swallowing. That's great.
Yeah, and so the difference in the purge breaths is like the ones I was doing before was more of a and so this one it's still upper chest, but it's more of the it's a little calmer is kind of what you're getting at, so you don't get that tension.
Yeah, and if I'm doing like really aggressive breaths, that's work, right? Work is stress and tension and carbon dioxide and oxygen being used. So we always try and do everything in the relaxed state, right? That is the silver bullet in breath holding and free diving, relaxation being the key.
I'm willing to bet that panic that hit so quick, like right after I dive into the pool, was probably because I'd built up too much tension.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then when you're on your swim, it's the markers along the way. I've only got 3 more strokes, then I get a turn. I've only got 3 more strokes, and just take the Dory Finding Nemo. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, and don't give in to the gotta go faster to get there, because that's when you exponentially start to use more oxygen and energy and heart rate than is going to move you forward, right?
And then that screws you over for the next breath that's coming.
Absolutely.
Amazing. I really appreciate how clear and helpful you were today, Kirk. And thanks, John, for your continued work and your persistence. It's really inspirational.
Well, thanks, guys. It was a lot of fun. John, look forward to hearing good things about your success.
Yeah, thanks, Kirk. I really appreciate it. I'm going to practice some of this tonight in the pool session.
Okay, safely. Okay.
Yes, with my safeties.
I don't know about you, but I rarely think about my breathing. As Kirk points out, it's autonomic. We do it without ever noticing. And yet it's so essential, not only to our survival, but to our sense of well-being, our sense of safety, comfort, and wholeness. When we feel breathing stress, we feel emotional stress, and vice versa. And no wonder, the chemicals in our bloodstream are changing, its makeup is shifting. It's amazing to think that just by paying a little attention, taking it a little slower, and understanding a little more about how we work, we can maybe find a little more peace and wholeness. Huge thanks to John for sharing his journey to joining the Pararescue Squad. We know you've got it in you. And an extra special thanks to Kirk Krack for all his underwater expertise. Look for his work in the latest Avatar movie and get your own help from him at his website. We'll include a link in the show notes. Do you need help diving for a new goal in your life? Send us a note at howto@slate.com or leave us a voicemail at 646-495-4001, and we might have you on the show. And if you like what you heard today, please tell a friend. That helps us help more people. How To's executive producers Derek John, Rosemary Belson, and Kevin Bendis produced this episode. Merritt Jacob is senior technical director. Charles Duhigg created the show. Amanda Ripley is my co-host, and I'm Carvell Wallace. Thanks for listening.
Hey everybody, it's Tim Heidecker. You know me, Tim and Eric, Bridesmaids, and Fantastic Four. I'd like to personally invite you to listen to Office Hours Live with me and my co-hosts, DJ Doug Pound.
Hello.
And Vic Berger.
Howdy.
Every week we bring you laughs, fun, games, and lots of other surprises. It's live. We take your Zoom calls.
Music.
We love having fun. Excuse me?
Songs.
Vic said something.
Songs.
Music.
I like having fun. I like to laugh. I like to meet people who can make me laugh. Please subscribe now.